podcast, an inside look at California politics and the state legislature. I am your host, Assemblyman Josh Hoover, and excited to be joined again today by Assemblymember Heath Flora from District 9. How's it going, Heath?
It's been a great weekend. Happy to be back. So,
Good, yeah, good. I'm glad you had a good weekend, man. Like, how was the first week of session for you?
Not gonna lie, when we came back a week ago today, Monday, when that floor session ran a little long, and it was a lot of amazing things that were going on. It took a little bit to get back into the groove.
Yep.
But survived Monday, got into Tuesday. It's good. I kind of enjoy coming to work. So
yeah, no,
it doesn't bother me.
Likewise, and it was it's always weird coming back, especially because I think the day before session came back, I was at the beach with my family. So it was a little hard to get from the beach to the office.
Well, yeah, when you had a month off, you're just out doing your thing. You don't really have time commitments. You're just kind of and then all of a sudden you're like, here we are on the floor.
We're back at it.
Yeah,
so. But yeah, excited for the final stretch here. Not excited about all the bills, but definitely excited to be back. And it's interesting. We came in and there was a new feature to the assembly floor. I don't know if you saw this.
I did.
Obviously, you saw this. I don't know if you had a reaction to this. But we now have glass, probably bulletproof glass, around the entire gallery above us, which has never been a thing.
Right.
I know the Senate has that, I think, but I didn't even know they were going to do that. And we walked in, and I looked up, and I'm like, wow. And that was a lot in response to the protests from a couple months ago.
Yeah, they had been thinking about that for a while.
Yeah,
and I think they just never really got it done. It is interesting. You go over to some Europe. We just part of the Irish caucus. We went over to Ireland and you went to their parliament, and they have glass, kind of separating them as well.
Really?
So, and then honestly, when I got back, I did certainly notice it when I first walked onto the floor. Yeah. Because 8 years, we've never had that before. Well, I mean, in our history, we've never had that before.
Right, yeah.
But it looked good. Honestly, it looks professional. It doesn't look cheap. It looks worthy of the building. It doesn't bother me. And, that protest we had last time was one of the most aggressive one we'd had. Literally, there was a lady that tried to jump over the balcony.
It was. I was legitimately worried someone was going to come off that balcony.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
whether accidentally or
the sergeant just tackled a lady. There was a lady who had her foot up on the ledge. Yeah. And honestly, I did not know that until Assemblywoman.
I did not know that either.
Wendy Carrillo told me. No.
Wow.
They literally tackled a lady whose foot was on the ledge.
Yeah.
Now, whether she would have actually jumped, I don't know.
I mean, that seems pretty crazy. But
that was a crazy day.
Yeah, that was a crazy day. If you didn't hear about it, I mean, we basically conducted business over shouting, and it was definitely a challenge for democracy. But I was really proud that we continued, our business, right, and didn't let us stop what we were trying to accomplish. So
no, I agree. I do wish that I think if a few of us were probably in charge, CHP would have been mobilized, and we would have just cleared that gallery out and called it a day.
You don't get to. That's not part of free speech.
No,
right? You don't get to shout down.
But I completely understand what our colleagues were doing. They were just trying to figure it out in the best way that they could. But we all survived, and it was a little bit awkward, not going to lie. But
but forever changed the gallery, right?
It did. It forever changed the gallery.
I think, obviously, a few years ago, there was an incident in the Senate we don't have to talk about that changed their gallery as well. But, I do think that it doesn't really harm access in any way. You can still hear everything up there, see everything up there. So I think for in this day and age, sadly, I think, maybe it's just needed. So
yeah, no, I think we're kind of to that point in life where,
which is unfortunate.
You can't control crazy sometimes.
Yeah. It's funny, a number of years ago, all the schools in most of my districts didn't have fences around them.
Okay.
They were just open campus. I mean, they had rules, but they didn't have barriers.
Right.
And now every remodel, man, it's all fences. I mean, it's just that's kind of what is happening.
It's sad. I don't know if I love it, but it's the world that we live in right now.
I'm very torn on it, right? Because on the one hand, it's it takes away access, it takes away different, but it's also you got to keep the kids safe, you got to keep us safe.
Well, and as parents, we both know that if something would happen at, God forbid, at one of the schools, and those precautions weren't taken, we'd probably be pretty ticked off about it.
Second guess it, absolutely.
Exactly. So
it's better safe than sorry, right?
Yep. So, it just sucks that we're where we're at.
Yeah. So last question for you before we get into the agenda here. Did you watch the Olympics?
I did.
What were your initial, like, what was your like favorite moment, or like how did you like them?
So initial thought was, what the heck are we doing with the opening ceremonies? I was like, what? This is not awesome. And then when Team USA in women's rugby took bronze and beat Australia with that last second try.
That was crazy. And you're like more of a fan of rugby. Like, I feel like you understand it. Yeah. I don't know what I don't know what I'm watching when I watch rugby, but I did watch that, and that was insane.
No, it was awesome. And for Team USA, who isn't typically known as a powerhouse in rugby, right? Especially on the women's side.
Yeah.
For them to pull off the upset in Australia, who is considered a powerhouse in the rugby world, literally, I think she started that run with 7 seconds left.
So how does it, when time expires? How does that work with the timing in rugby? Like
on that particular, it's just a lot like football, right? So time expired, then so she kicked the extra point, so she tied it up, right, with the try, and then the extra point put them up 1 point.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So
like she didn't have to make it there before time expired.
No, she did.
She did.
Oh, she did. Yeah. If she would have been tackled, it would have been over.
Oh, tackled would be over, right? Obviously.
Yep. She had to score that try.
So how often in rugby do you see someone go the full length of the field like that? Like, is that something that happens? I mean,
it does. It's a lot like football.
Yeah. It's just not as common.
Yeah, if you get a receiver that runs a good route and takes it all the way, or a punt return or a kickoff return, like it does happen. But no, like I mean, those gals are, they're studs. Like they're you don't want to cross them, and they're ready to take your head off. And so like they're very I wouldn't say it's like uncommon, but it's not frequent.
Yeah. That's pretty funny, man.
Yeah, awesome.
I mean that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I loved a lot of the sports. The gymnastics was really cool. Simone Biles did great. That was pretty cool to watch. My kids too got more into it this year because the older they get, we like just put it on. We don't like force them to like sit down and watch it.
Right.
But then like we see who gravitates to it, and like all three of them at different points, depending on the sport, they were like, "Oh, what's this one?" It was pretty fun.
No, it's fun, and for me, like I love like World Cup. I love anything where our national teams are playing because I think there is I'm a huge sports fan, right? And I love seeing all of our stars play together on our national team under one banner. When Team USA, won in basketball, and then the gals won in basketball, both against France, right? And then USA Soccer, the debacle that was the World Cup last year, a few years ago, and then they came back and won gold with a relatively new squad. It's just awesome to see.
Yeah, it is awesome.
It's just fun to see, our athletes wear, our country's colors and go represent, and
you see, Steph and LeBron playing together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Kings fan, but it was good to see Steph go off, in that last few seconds and the last few minutes and kind of seal it for Team USA.
I don't know if you saw, so my oldest was following the basketball because he's like, we can't lose, we got to win. There's a lot of close games this year.
Well,
basketball is getting better internationally.
Exactly.
I mean, it's crazy.
Well, in Serbia, I mean, we were down, I think, 15 points in the fourth quarter, and
that was crazy.
17, and the boys came back, and
that was cool.
In France, to their credit,
Steph came back.
Came back, and then LeBron,
he did some stuff.
Although I can't really give a Laker that much
you
credit.
Can't give him credit.
I mean, come on.
It was funny. I saw a post from Tyrese Halliburton. He held up his gold on Twitter or something, and he was just like, when you do nothing on the group project and still get an A.
That's awesome.
That was great.
That's
it was
awesome.
A little self-deprecating, but it was so great. It was that was awesome.
You know what? He's my kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
So that was pretty great. But yeah, no, love the gymnastics. Love watching Katie Ledecky kick the world's butt in like long distance swimming. I mean, that was nuts. The distance that she wins by is just so insane every time,
Well, then the female relay team.
The relay team was amazing. I think they broke the world record or something. I can't remember, but they were incredible.
I don't think there was anybody within the TV shot of her.
Yeah, it was like crazy.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And then Quincy Hall winning the gold in, I think it was like the 400 meter, or 200 meter. I can't remember, but Cole Hawkinson. Did you watch the race where the guy with the man bun? I don't know if you remember him, but there was this race where they were hyping this guy from Norway and this guy from Great Britain, and they're like, these guys are like locked in this rivalry. It's going to be one or the other, right? And then these Americans, they're there too. They're cool. they got it. They're decent. and like Cole Hawkinson, or is it Hawker? Sorry, I'm saying his name wrong. Cole Hawker just runs on the inside, runs the race of his life, beats them both. I mean, it was the craziest race. Man.
I did not see that,
dude. Like it was. I will say, like we watched it live on tape in prime time, and like even my kids were like, "This is crazy," just because of the way they set it up. And then he won. It was awesome.
Yeah, the only thing I set my alarm for was the final round of golf.
Dude, was it like midnight or 2 a.m. or what?
Well, I set mine for like 3:45 in the morning because that's when the final group teed off, and that's the group I wanted to watch. And then, but like, I mean, Scotty Scheffler,
he brought it home, man.
Unbelievable. I mean,
what a great, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. It was good times.
That's cool. Yeah, no, great. My son my youngest on the couple nights ago was like, "It's over. When do we get to watch this again?" And I'm like, 4 years. 2 if you want to, winter. We'll watch winter.
Yeah, winter's fun.
So, he's like, all right.
I get really into curling in the Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I love it.
Guy. Well, hey, 4 years from now, I'll be in LA. So we'll see what happens. We're coming back to California.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
That'll be a ton of fun. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. But
I think Snoop Dogg's the ambassador, right? So Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre.
I will say one of the best things was watching Snoop Dogg cover the equestrian events.
Well, yeah, when the horse was crib walking.
Yeah, exactly. When he was like doing oh my gosh, man. Like that was some of the funniest like broadcasts.
No, totally. And I think we really should, give a shout out to Australia. I mean, they crushed it in breakdancing.
See, I didn't watch the breaking at all. I didn't watch it, man. I should have.
It's the single greatest thing in Olympics history. Like, so Australia had this gal who was breakdancing.
Dang it.
And just watch it. Like, it is hilarious because I don't know if it's particularly good. Yeah. And they gave her 0 points.
No way.
Yeah. But she was doing this like sideways worm move and like a whole bunch of crazy things that they literally gave him 0 points.
Oh my gosh.
Gave her absolutely 0 points.
That's hilarious.
So a little bit of satire to Australia, but apparently USA can beat Australian breakdancing as well.
Right,
so it was pretty funny.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty funny though.
I actually wanted to. I was out of town and I just didn't get to watch it those days. But I really wanted to I'm like, what the heck, man? I want to see it for the heck of it.
I love it.
All right. So this is a little bit older. So we're gonna start with our question of the week. A little bit older of a story, I guess, a couple weeks ago. But the big Southwest story. Okay, I didn't get a chance to talk about it with Greg last week because he's the one that flies the most, probably.
Right.
But Southwest moving to assigned seating. Do you fly Southwest?
I do a lot.
Yeah, I do. That's like my main airline. So I'm gonna put this out. So we'll go on our X page at Point of Order Pod. You can vote. Starting when this episode releases on whether it's a thumbs up, thumbs down on getting rid of the cattle call. Right, like where you got to check in 24 hours before, and you got to hustle for your seat, or they're moving to assigned seating, not till 2025. I'm still kind of figuring out how I feel about it, but I don't know if you felt any way about it.
No, I think it's funny. I mean, I've traveled a lot, and it's either usually American or Southwest. Yeah. So American obviously does assigned seating, which is perfectly fine. You get the seat you pay for. Southwest, I have no doubt that they're doing it for financial reasons.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know exactly how it doesn't bother me. Whatever. Yeah, I think the only thing that was frustrating about Southwest is you would get the pre-boarding.
Yeah.
You'd be like A2 or A1, and there'd be like 30 people pre-boarding in front of you.
I know. And
it's like, okay.
It's like, really? So I'm one, but I'm not.
Yeah, but I'm really not. Yeah. So I really, it'd be kind of interesting to talk to some of Southwest folks and like what is sort of the inside scoop. But I can guarantee it was financial.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm hearing too, and I think they have to, they polled their customers, and apparently the customers said they want to move that direction. I mean, it's funny because if you asked me like 3 years ago when I didn't fly as much and I wasn't special, like I had no. Well, I've always had the Southwest credit card, but other than that, like I have no like A-list or anything like that, right? I would be all about this. Because I'm always the guy that I'm like, oh crap! Like it's like 2 hours before the flight, and I forgot to check in. My entire family's in like C boarding, C60 or something, And I'd always just be like, I can't believe I did it again. And then your whole family ends up sitting in different places in the airplane or whatever.
Awesome.
That was just always me. And then, but now like when I flew more and got A-list, and then you're pissed. You're like, dang it, man. Because like then you can forget and you're still A and you're good.
It doesn't matter. Like, yeah.
But man, like I did see a lot of like chatter on X from lobbyists and stuff about like how mad they were about A-list and stuff, you know, because a lot of people have been like really invested in Southwest for a long time, and you earn that A-list, and it's like gold, you know.
I am curious what they're going to do. I mean, yeah, because I think we all have a lot of points, right?
Yeah,
a lot of status with
It's
Southwest.
funny.
It'll be kind of interesting to see what they do with that, or if it just suddenly goes away.
My guess is they have to shift it to some sort of like you get some sort of premium seating option, because they are going to be a third of their seats apparently are going to start to be premium seating.
Okay.
So they're going to be like reformatting all their planes essentially in 2025.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's not just like they're changing this, like they're going to be redoing the inside of their planes so that a third of their seats have more leg room. So they're premium, and then they'll charge more for that third, and then the other 2/3 will be like standard. So my guess is like you're gonna be able to like earn some sort of premium
Status
upgrade, or who knows how they're gonna do it. I just don't want them to touch my free bags.
That's also true.
Yeah, because I'm like, hey, I need my 2 free bags, all right? Because I got to bring my golf clubs or whatever, you know.
I just want planes to leave on time and land where they're supposed to.
That really is the important part, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't really care about anything else, but you know,
That landing on time or landing where they're supposed to is kind of a big deal. Like,
and don't cancel my flight like right
cancel
before.
No.
And
Oh yeah.
But
no,
don't strand me somewhere.
That's
really pretty low bar.
No, it really is. Like, leave on time and guess where we're supposed to be. That's it.
Yeah,
like
I agree with you there.
I'll sort it out from there.
Hit up X at Point of Order Pod if you want to vote on that. Thumbs up, thumbs down on Southwest's decision to move to assigned seating in 2025. Just to jump into stories of the week now. I mean, look, big story off the top. Probably the story of the week. I know we were all talking about it, but a state senator in California, Maria Alvarado Gil, has defected from the Supermajority, the Democratic Party, and announced that she will be changing her registration to the Republican Party moving forward. I watched one interview where she said this is a long-term thing. She's committed. And I think her statement, she said, since my first day in office, I've put the interests of my constituents first, elected to serve the public, not a political ideology. The status quo under a supermajority Democratic rule in the legislature is simply not working for this state. It is after deep reflection, I announce that I will be joining the Senate Republican Caucus and the California Republican Party in their fight to fix California. So nice things to hear. What was your initial reaction on this one?
I mean, it's great. Like, I think there's I think for those of us like you've been in this business for a while, in very different levels, right?
Yeah.
There's a need. You know, the California Republican Party has long been trying to figure out a way to grow our numbers. Yeah. Right. Whether you like President Trump or not, he was a big issue for California Republicans. Like the state, just the independent mods that didn't particularly love him. It made it very hard for us to grow our numbers. So I'm encouraged that a Democratic senator realized that her party has gone a little bit astray. It is not the Democratic Party of our parents' era, and probably
she mentioned that too. That's
exactly in her era as well, right? It's very different now, and so I respect her for doing that. With that being said, I think it's completely fair to be skeptical. Yeah. She represents one of the reddest Senate seats in the state. Yeah. It was going to be very hard for her to win re-election as a Democrat. There is another great candidate that announced a few hours before she defected. So there's just a lot of questions that I think she needs to be prepared to answer. Yeah. And so far, in the interviews that I've seen her do, I'm not sure she's been quite prepared to answer some of those questions. And I don't think those questions are out of line. I think they're very fair. Yeah. And truthfully, like, I've got questions for her, right? Yeah. Like, to her credit, she's been very, very good on law enforcement issues. Yes, she has. Yeah. Like an absolute stalwart on that. And
actually pretty critical of her party, in the conversations I've had with her too.
Totally.
Right?
And that's a huge, plus for her. Yeah. I think there's a lot of her other voting records for that district that people are going to have a lot of questions are. Yeah. And I would, if I were her and her team, I would work very hard on answering those questions. Because trust is going to be a big thing. I mean,
sure.
You saw what the Dems did. You know, they lost their minds, right? Because she defected, which
doesn't happen. I mean, you don't leave the supermajority. I mean, she has a chairmanship in the Senate. She's going to lose, right? Yep. She's probably going to lose her bills. She's going to lose. I mean, no, it's a big decision.
No, it is. Like, it's not to be taken lightly. And I think that's one thing that like we'd be very careful on. Like, welcome her to the party. Yeah. Like, thank you, right? Yeah. But it's also okay to ask questions.
Well, and also, right, like, what is the voting record moving forward, right? Because I think, you know, to a certain extent, you have to give people a little space to like show that you know they're actually committed to this. But you know, it'll be interesting. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, I get the question thing too. Yeah.
No, I do, and I want to be very respectful to one of our colleagues currently, but one of our former colleagues when you know we had a Republican that went to the Democratic side, right? Yeah. Voting record basically went 180.
Yeah.
You know, and then we had a Republican that became an independent.
Yeah.
Whose voting record never really changed.
Yeah, stayed the same.
Stayed the same. And so like one of my biggest frustrations with politicians, with us, is there seems to be kind of a lack of moral compass. Like none of us have to be perfect, right? No. Like nobody's expecting us to be perfect. But believe what you believe. Right? And I don't care what letter's behind your name. No. And so that's what's very interesting to me.
Yeah, what are your principles?
That's right. Like,
right? What are your principles, regardless of your party affiliation? What are your principles?
Yeah, I mean, like we have all these, like some of our friends are ultra progressive Democrats, right? But like I respect them. I don't agree with them, but I respect them. Like, you know, and you talk about this. Like, I'm a white dude from the Central Valley. I come from an ag world, right? Yeah. Like, I don't know inner city politics. Yeah. Right. From LA or San Francisco. Yeah. So like, help me understand that, and vice versa, right? I think there's just have a core set of principles, and don't be afraid to stand up for them. And if people disagree with you, that's fine. Yeah, it's okay. Like General Patton says, if everybody's thinking alike, then somebody's not thinking. Yeah, and I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, and that's why I actually like our debates on the floor, because in California, which is obviously very diverse, you know, we have these discussions are super important because, like, a lot of times you and James Gallagher and some of these other folks in more rural areas, we got to teach all the people from the cities what it means to be a rural Californian, you know, and it doesn't even have to, it's not even always partisan as much as it is
regional.
You don't even, like, this doesn't work in that region. You know what I mean? When we're talking about a policy or something. So
totally.
You know, I think that's important.
Completely agree with you. I mean, we have, you know, some women in Soria. You know, we have, you know, Senator Caballero, right? I mean, we have men and women from both parties representing rural areas. And you're absolutely right. The Bay Area and LA control the votes, right? Yep. So our issues are not partisan, and certainly in the Central Valley. They're very, very regional. So I completely agree.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I mean, look, I think I put up something on X welcoming her to the party, the caucus, right? And, you know, we try to, I mean, this is kind of an inherently political story. So we don't get too deep into the partisanship stuff on this podcast. But, you know, I certainly think, you know, I guess my one comment would be that I think you have to celebrate when someone comes to your side.
Correct.
And I think there are a lot of questions and all that good stuff. But, you know, the reality is that I think as Republicans, we need to be a big tent party, and we need to be welcoming of those when they do say, hey, I think I, you know, want to embrace the values of the Republican Party, of conservatism. We need to welcome that, right? And that is actually also, to a degree, how you win elections, is you have to convince people to come to your side, right? And I think California is also just very imbalanced, and we've talked about this a lot, in its representation, and you know, we need to restore at least some of that balance if we're going to see more common sense policy in California, and that includes, you know, more Republicans and more moderate Democrats and more, you know, independents and all that stuff. So,
no, I think you're absolutely right. And that memo that got sent out last week, I think Gallagher sent it to a lot of us, and it's public information, but with voter registration up and down the state. Yeah. I mean, Republicans are winning in a lot of different ways. So
I did see that. I didn't put it in here, but I saw that too.
Yeah, it's a very interesting read where if we continue to be the party of acceptance, you know, I do, you know me, I try not to speak in general terms, but there are a certain sector of our Democratic colleagues, our Democratic caucus, really,
Yeah.
that really love identity politics.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
everything is about identity, right? And as Republicans, we're Republicans.
Yeah.
We really have no other caucuses. It's just us, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's very interesting when we start understanding that and talking about that. Like, I feel like constituents are starting to understand this. Like Republicans, like, no, we're not perfect. In a lot of ways, we can be really dumb at times, I mean, as a party, we can do dumb things, and not speaking about the CAGOP or just like nationally, just as us as human beings, right?
Yeah.
But if we can continue to show acceptance, love, compassion, right? Just being there for our constituents, being part of the working man, the working woman, like this idea that, labor is root of all evil. No, like I don't buy that, especially trades, public safety. Like there's a lot of synergy, a lot of our constituents work in those trades. And so like, I think as we continue to progress this ideology of a Republican Party that's accepting, if our other side of our colleagues continue to go down the path that they're on, I think there's going to be a huge wedge that gets driven.
Yeah. No, it's funny on that note. So speaking of the caucuses that people are a part of, I think the day of the announcement, the Latino Caucus kicked her out. And so they put out this statement on the senator changing parties. Said, we are disappointed that the senator has chosen to, switch parties in accordance with our founding membership precedent and the long-standing principles and history of our caucus. She will no longer be eligible to remain a member of the Latino Caucus effective immediately. And they even made some comments about, essentially implying that Latinos can't be represented by Republicans, which I find pretty offensive, especially as someone who is a Latino in the Republican caucus. It's pretty offensive, this idea that like, if you come from a certain background, then your ideology has to be identical to everyone else in that background. I think that's patently ridiculous. But I mean, they're staying true to their principles. They don't let any of the Republican Latinos into their caucus, and they immediately kick out Senator Marie Alvarado Gil. So I thought that was kind of an interesting side note to that story. But
well, that's been an issue. I mean, the API caucus is very welcoming to Republicans. The Women's Caucus, for the most part, is they do caucus, every now and then just with Democratic. But the Latino Caucus has long been sort of Rocky Chavez, Dante Acosta, when we do like Latino Heritage Month or we do these, like none of the Republican Latinos are ever honored, right? I mean, so it doesn't surprise me. It is sad,
it's
though.
It's a bummer. I think it just,
But it is also something that I wish that like, saying the API caucus is very open-minded,
I know,
right? And so like, it doesn't always have to be that way. Like it's okay to be of an ethnic, a Republican in some of these caucuses. But then again, I go back to like, I don't know if I really want to be part of an identity caucus, right? Like,
no, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah.
If we're Californians, like we're
representing all our constituents, everyone in our districts, 100%. So I thought that was an interesting one. It was very swift action by the Latino Caucus.
Yes, it was within moments.
Within moments. All right, moving on. A new federal audit came out, showed that California homelessness dollars that we got from the federal government are basically the highest risk rating that you can be in terms of fraud. Sadly, I'm not totally surprised by this story. I don't know if you saw it, but
I did.
Well,
I mean, are you surprised?
No.
I mean, this is what's
every dollar. We don't track any of the money.
It's an absolute joke, and we have colleagues on both sides of the aisle that have asked for a little bit more oversight on these dollars, and the governor's vetoing these bills.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It's an absolute joke. And if I was as a constituent of California and a taxpayer, right, like I'm ticked. No, we're what, $25 billion, $25 billion we've spent. We've had an increase, and now we're vetoing bills because of oversight. Like, are you kidding me right now?
It's insane. So you're referring to our colleague Joe Patterson's bill, I think recently got to the governor's desk. Bipartisan support, unanimous support. Honestly, pretty minor bill. It just would have like required some transparency and accountability on homelessness. And governor vetoed it, said, we're good. We're good with what we're doing already. We're obviously not good. We know we're not good. The audit of homelessness spending that I put forward obviously showed that, we're spent $24 billion and have not only has homelessness gotten worse, but we don't know where any of the money went.
Right.
The fraud issues that this new audit kind of uncovered don't surprise me at all, because if you don't know where any of the money's going, how are you going to protect it from being, fraudulently taken? So.
And we see, I do fear, and I don't think I'm wrong. Homelessness has turned into a money-making enterprise for people.
Yeah.
When you have tiny houses that are costing from $80,000 to $120,000 a piece, like, that's a joke.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The governor in 2017 or 18, we ran a piece of legislation, and it was a lot of work. There was in Manteca, had a 700,000 square foot facility. City wanted to sell it to a nonprofit for $1, right? So there was tax revenue. We had to go through revenue. It was just a big lift to get that done. Got to the governor's desk, and he vetoed it.
Incredible.
And in his veto letter is like, he wanted a one-size-fits-all approach to California homelessness. And it's a joke, because you have these nonprofits who know the community. They know the homeless men and women in their community, right? We all know these by name.
Yep.
Modesto, I think, has roughly 1,700 right now, and Manteca has a little bit less than that, but we know these people.
Yeah.
And why not give those communities the authority to do what they need, instead of this top-down approach that clearly isn't working?
Yeah.
And quite frankly, it hasn't worked since he's been the mayor of San Francisco.
Yeah, that's true.
So this is not a new failure of his.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I think I actually have a bill that's sitting in Senate Appropriations right now that it's also on homelessness accountability. I don't expect him. After what happened with Patterson's bill, I feel like it's going to get vetoed. But I'm just kind of hoping that we get it to his desk and keep putting that pressure on, because something's got to give here.
I agree. I don't know what the change of heart was when we started cleaning up these encampments, but that's a positive thing. I'll give the governor credit for that.
We talked about that last week. We got to clear it out. Okay.
Not sure what triggered that, but let's go. Right. And so, hopefully the governor's kind of coming along on this and starting to feel a little bit of pressure too, that we are kind of tired of it.
Yep. Big story last week. Obviously, Legislature passed the organized retail theft bills. Without all the poison pills, all the shenanigans that we've kind of covered on this podcast in the past. I supported them. I think give anything we can do to give DAs and law enforcement more tools for fighting the retail theft crisis is good. Still think it doesn't go far enough, but definitely was happy to support those. I think some of the hope is that it undermines Prop 36 and people's desire to pass Prop 36. I don't think that it will, because you're not going to see a bit of change in the next 3 months in retail theft as a result of these bills, right? Mostly because they don't go into effect till next year. So, I don't know if you have any thoughts.
No, I think, Prop 36 and this package are absolutely complementary of each other.
Yep.
They both work really very consistently, with each other. And I'm excited about that. It was a huge fight, right? And once again, I want to give our Democratic colleagues a lot of credit. It was a bit of a battle, and there was a time where I thought that it was all going to fall apart.
Yep.
But they finally had enough, and they're like, no, we're not going to do that. So I think there's a lot of, and sometimes it's for different reasons, but that whole saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of one of those deals. So I'm excited about it. I'm happy to support them as well. There was really no fireworks on the floor. I just kind of unceremoniously just passed.
Yeah, they just passed.
There was a lot of emotions behind the scenes on those bills, as you well know.
Yeah, and I was really thankful to see them pass without all the, junk in them, right? The poison pill amendments. I know for a minute they were going to throw urgency clauses to kind of mess with the proposition in another way. There was just so many games that were being played. I don't think people appreciate that. I think people want their representatives to come together and fix crime in California. And, this legislature has been very slow and really fought that at every step of the way, And I really think these bills, as much as I think they're good legislation, they scratch the surface of what needs to be done, right? So, it's like, I think some of the comments coming out of the Capitol last week were just like, this is the solution. I don't think it's the full solution, but hey, anything we can do to put better laws on the books, I'm all about it.
Well, the last 10 years, like we've never had more movement in the last decade than we had this year, right? And so, I mean, I tell this people all the time, like even when it comes to elections, right? Yeah. And none of us got to where we're at as a state overnight. And to think we're going to fix it overnight is also wrong, right? It takes time. So I think that this was a great first step. To your point, like if you and I could flip a switch tomorrow, it would probably be a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of credit that needs to be given to our Dem colleagues. To first kind of standing up and doing something, right? Yeah. And so I think there's a lot of positive to take away from it.
Yeah. So another big story, Chevron announced they're leaving, or at least moving some of their operation to Texas, moving out of California. I think there's some pretty serious concerns. I mean, obviously on the job front, over time, I imagine that will impact the jobs that are available to Californians, but also just like the cost side of things, right? Is this going to, again, increase costs, right, for California oil production and all that good stuff? I mean, we'll see what the impacts are going to be, but just once again, like the rhetoric coming from the governor towards the oil industry, I think, is pushing them out of the state, which I don't think is the best for the consumers in this state. And, you can hate oil all you want. The reality is that our economy runs on it today. Maybe it won't in the future, but today it does. Mm-hmm. And making it more expensive only hurts, everyday Californians, right? So.
No, I mean, I completely agree with you. I don't know exactly what the ramifications are, if it's just some of Chevron's like corporate folks that are moving,
I think that's some of it.
Yeah. But it goes to me, just once again, kind of shines a light on a larger issue, right? Where California, again, is kind of picking winners and losers on industries that it likes. And if we continue to run these companies out, like it's a huge issue on our bottom line as a tax base.
Yeah,
so
totally.
And then not to mention, you mentioned about the everyday Californians. Like, I'm sorry, like we're not going to force everybody into EVs tomorrow. We're not.
No.
And we don't have the infrastructure. We talked about Central Valley. There's not the infrastructure, right? We don't have the energy production.
You could buy everyone in California an EV like this week, and it still wouldn't work. No, because it's just the infrastructure's not ready for it.
It's crazy. So,
and that's not an anti-EV take. That's a reality take, right? That's a
the EV producers know this.
Yeah, we're not ready for prime time.
No, we don't have the energy. We don't have the capacity. No. And this idea that we can just flip a switch and go to a green economy, it's crazy. And that's why I like that letter that the problem solvers, signed on to.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, do not let perfect be the enemy of good. Right. Like if
that was a great letter.
E10 and E15 are available, and we should accept those, right?
Totally.
Because we're not going to get rid of fossil fuels tomorrow.
Yeah.
So let's take the best, cleanest technology we can moving forward and implement those and move towards that cleaner future. But right now, we are where we are.
Yeah, the only thing you accomplish by forcing it is, hurting probably the people that can least afford it, right?
100%.
And so I think that's where I don't really get. I mean, you want to transition to a green, a clean economy, a clean energy. I think that's a great long-term goal, but how you do that, how do you do that in a way that doesn't harm like the poorest constituents in our communities? Yeah. And this is the party that, again, claims to stand for, the poor.
Yeah.
These are not decisions that are helping anyone afford life in California.
No, it actually, quite frankly, pisses me off.
Yeah.
I get really tired of hearing, not colleagues, but like some of our liberal elite, friends, right? That lecture us on a daily about fossil fuels, including the podcast that I saw the other day. And it's like, well, you drive 7 miles a day to an office building in your Tesla, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we have farm workers in the Central Valley that are driving 60, 70 miles one way to work in the field, burning fossil fuel. So you're absolutely right. It's this lecturing. Like, well, that works really, really well for you. Congratulations. Awesome. Love that you're doing it, right? doesn't work for us.
Yeah,
right?
love that it works for you. Yeah.
Like, and it's great. Like if I lived in downtown LA or San Francisco, yeah, I'd have an EV too.
Yeah.
But no, like,
yeah,
no,
it just doesn't work.
It just doesn't.
Yeah.
And so.
No, totally agree. So I think, that'll be, I think it's unfortunate, but we'll watch the impacts of that decision. We're going to close it off here on, I don't know if we're our clip of the week. So I don't know if you saw Governor Newsom got out there in LA County and cleaned up a homeless encampment over the weekend. I think it was, or maybe it was Friday. I don't remember, but, and he had some interesting words to say. I'm going to play this and then get your reaction.
Love it.
Cities can do their part. You can apply for federal grants, but the state's unprecedented billions and billions of dollars support. I'm not interested in providing that support and not seeing the results. I'm a taxpayer, not just the governor. It's not complicated. We'll send that money to counties that are producing results.
A pretty short clip there, but, Governor Newsom, the taxpayer advocate. I say that a bit sarcastically,
right?
Of course. I mean, look, I don't disagree with him. I don't, I'm pretty sick of the failure as well on homelessness. And, I think it's a little stunty to get down there and start clearing out a homeless encampment. But if he's seen the light, great. I'll welcome it, I guess.
No, I think, I would agree with that. I go back to that brief story about that homeless facility in Manteca, right, where he vetoed it. So I love that maybe he's coming around, and everybody has the right to be wrong.
Yeah.
And maybe he's starting to realize that maybe some of his policies were not the best.
Yeah.
But I think I'd be a little bit careful about how much I would grandstand right now, because he hasn't exactly been too open-minded to allowing local governments to do what they need to do. So if for whatever reason he's seeing that, totally supportive of it, I just think I would probably be a little bit more humble about at least like maybe a few successes first and then tout those, right?
Yeah.
But
I think it is kind of funny because in some ways he's criticizing himself. I mean, yes, you can blame local governments for some inaction. And I think in the case of LA County, that's probably warranted, but at the end of the day, it's like California has some of the most restrictive policies on homelessness from the standpoint of like that this until maybe a year ago, this was only a housing problem, right? It wasn't a substance abuse problem. It wasn't a mental health crisis. And now people are like, well, maybe it is. Yeah, well, that's what we've been saying for a very long time. This isn't just a housing crisis, right? And then, for him also to be there while he, like the week before, vetoed this accountability measure, it's like, okay, so you want to fix homelessness, but you don't want any sunlight. You don't want any accountability on homelessness. But you want to keep spending the billions and billions of dollars. So, it does ring a little hollow for me. But
listen, happy that we're doing it. Happy that we made the move. But I'm still like, whatever.
Hey, if it gets anyone to move the needle a little more, great.
Again, it's like public safety and retail theft. Like, probably not going to get exactly what we want, but it's moving the needle in the right direction for once in a long time. And it wasn't that long ago that we passed legislation. I certainly didn't support it. That we handcuffed counties and people's ability to move in campus until we had a bed for them to go to. Well, we're starting to see some of that errors. And this is one thing, like as a guy that always sort of supported term limits.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons in an argument, like term limits may not always be the best thing, is because when you have electeds that come and pass these laws, right, and then they're gone before they ever get implemented.
They don't care.
We don't care, right? Yeah. And so sometimes it's nice to
not my problem.
Exactly. To feel some of the pain that we passed, right? And not so much that you and I voted for them, but we as an elected body did.
That's a good point, actually. And I think you if you're continuing to get scrutiny for something you did that was maybe a mistake, then you're more likely to fix it if you're still there.
Exactly.
Potentially.
Potentially.
Right? It's funny, actually, the big bill we passed last year, was it SB 43? Or it was on the conservatorships. Basically allowing counties to relax, essentially expand conservatorships and allow other members of a homeless individual's life to actually.
Well, it's like the Britney Spears bill.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But really, it was aimed at homelessness too, right? In the sense that, it would allow homelessness and, maybe substance abuse and other things to qualify for a family member coming in and saying, hey, you need to get help. A lot of these counties have been really slow to enact it. They're waiting on it. And I think that's another thing in another interview he was expressing frustration about. But at the end of the day, we got to hold everyone accountable.
Yeah.
And,
I'd be curious, to dig into that a little bit more, because I actually don't. But I wonder if the counties if there's a liability. Is ACLU going to come after them if they make somebody do something with a bill that may not be completely baked?
That's a good point.
And thought through, are they just opening themselves up for something?
Yeah,
right?
That's a good point. So maybe there's some concern there as well. Any final thoughts before we get you out of here?
No, I think it's just we got 3 more weeks of August,
Almost
right?
there.
And then we'll see what happens. I don't think the final shoe has dropped just yet, but I think there's going to be a lot of surprises. Our colleagues are going to go back to Dem convention in a few weeks.
That's right.
And support Kamala. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how the floor plays out and how late
that
the nights
has
get.
a very logistical impact on us, right? From a
yes, it does.
We're actually not going to be in session as much as we should be because of the convention. So that'll be interesting to see what work we get done before and after, and how long we're here. I'm a big advocate for not being here on Saturday on the final day of August. That would be my vote. If I had a vote. I really want the speaker and the pro tem to work that out.
Yeah,
so
I don't have a lot
Friday
of faith
night.
in that. I feel like we're going to be here Saturday.
Here's the problem: is no matter what, anyone that flies is going to be here Saturday.
Right. That's true.
Because we're not going to get done till midnight.
You
1
and I
a.m.,
can.
2 a.m. You and I might be able to get.
We can
home.
wheels up and we'll be home in 60 minutes.
But exactly. But anyone that flies, they're going home Saturday.
Yeah. No, it is not awesome, but there's a chance. It really does. It depends on what we get done this week.
Yeah. We'll see.
The bills that are out there, I don't think there's anything too crazy. They're just they are what they are. But I do hear rumblings that the administration is going to drop some last minute stuff.
Yeah.
And then that's where I think things are going to get a little exciting.
That's good. Well, we'll follow up on those potential stories in future weeks of the pod. We'll be recording throughout this month to kind of follow along with some of those storylines. Next week, we were supposed to have Senator Scott Wilk on here to discuss some issues. He's a first-time guest, so
nice.
That'll be fun. If you want to share ideas for future shows, you can email pointoforderpod@gmail.com. Listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you can watch, subscribe, or follow on YouTube, X, Instagram, Threads, and Facebook at Point of Order Pod. You can follow today's hosts on X at myself, at Joshua_Hoover, and then Heath is at Heath Flora CA. Heath, thanks again, man. It's great, always great having you on, and I appreciate you coming back.
No, it's always fun, bud.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Absolutely.